Welcome back, intellectuals, to another episode of our podcast. Today's discussion is a controversial and vital topic for anyone in winning contracts. We're peeling back the layers of traditional color team reviews, examining their pitfalls, and exploring innovative approaches that promises to revolutionize this crucial aspect of proposal development. Rebecca Link, an industry expert in proposals and business development, joins us to navigate this complex topic. With a career spanning over 13 years, Rebecca's expertise extends far beyond leading successful and highly functional teams. She's a trailblazer in harnessing the power of artificial intelligence and large language models, which is redefining what's possible in the federal proposal industry. Outside the office, she's a super mom to two wonderful children and has a green thumb with a knack for gardening. Her unique blend of strategic acumen, technological savvy, and leadership makes her a frequently sought after speaker and APMP contributor. Rebecca, it's great to have you with us here today on the show, and I'm personally thrilled about this discussion regarding color teams. To our intellectuals tuning in, Rebecca's here to share her professional journey and her visionary approach to reimagining the proposal color team process in today's fast-paced, tech-driven landscape. Rebecca, please say hello to our listeners and give us a sneak peek into your world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about this topic today. It's something I've been noodling on for quite some time. I've been around the block. I started out as a writer, found a love and a knack for proposal management, learned how to be an orals coach, and have had the opportunity to build teams and help organizations meet their goals. And then most recently have fallen in love with AI and really been diving in head first, trying out all these new tools that are emerging into our space. And it's just exciting and phenomenal what this can do for us. And so I'll definitely be sharing a couple little tidbits about how to leverage AI in color team reviews in our discussion today, because I think that is going to be a differentiator moving forward. So thanks again for having me, and let's get into it. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to balance you and speaking AI. So I'm just going to put that out there.
I've already talked myself off the ledge that I'm not going to make this all about AI. I promise.
Right? And so sometimes we do a little bit of a drinking game. So every time Rebecca says AI, all of our intellectuals need to drink. So let's keep that count
a lot
going.
of hospital trips. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rebecca, before we start our discussion, I'd like to ask you a personal question about a chronic problem that I have. Given your knack for keeping plants alive, which parallels do you see between nurturing your garden and fostering successful proposal teams?
That's a fantastic question and a really great kind of analogy. I think so. Here's the secret, right? I'm what you would call a lazy gardener. I've got all my little seedlings in cups downstairs, starting inside right now to be transplanted. And you kind of have to nurture them and watch them grow a little bit. But once I put them in the garden, I go and I check on them, and I love seeing their growth and their progress. But for the most part, I leave them alone. Nature has a beautiful way of kind of handling its own business sometimes. And I think that there's magic in that with people too, right? I think that there's a difference between supervising and uplifting or upskilling someone and being a support. And support looks different to everybody, right? So yeah, I think the secret sauce is actually trusting the plants and trusting your people to be the best versions of themselves and kind of enjoying that growth that happens with that magic.
Yeah, because I think in our industry, and you've witnessed it, I know I have, is that there are some proposal development professionals that are very heavy handed. They're very authoritarian. They like to kind of wield and throw around, this power or this onus over the organization. And I think that kind of stifles and makes people not really enjoy a very stressful type of activity in general. Like proposals development is not something that is easy for people. And so I think it is really kind of critical to find that healthy balance between a heavy guiding hand and something that's a little bit too much intervention.
Yeah, I like keeping with the plant metaphor, that's the decision when to throw fertilizer on there and what kind of fertilizer to use, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
I joke in proposal management, you kind of have to be like a payday bar. You have to be the right combination of sweet and salty because you need to be approachable and likable, but you also have to get things done at the same time. So we'll
yeah.
stick with the
And that's
fertilizer. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really hard for me because I'm a super driver and a tiger mom. So I have only grown into this new style that is Ton Wilson. Because if we're going to talk about plants, let's just all be fair. I do have a problem with that. I love them. I bring them home, and my husband calls them Ton's little house of horrors because it's where plants come to die, and it's not intentional. It's just sometimes I overwater and like try to force things. And I know when we were in Virginia, I loved hydrangea plants. And this poor hydrangea bush traveled and got replanted like 3 times in one season. And my husband's just like, find a home for it already, like stop putting it through all this stress and like rehoming it in different places. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
it's definitely something you have to grow into. So, anyways, that's such a cool comparison, Rebecca, and it makes me think about the care and environment we provide not only for our plants but our teams. And so, speaking of like nurturing environments, let's kind of take that theme and kind of pull that thread a little bit. You know, let's chat about how we've both kind of wrestled with it. The whole ordeal of like our topic today is not about proposal teams, but traditional color team reviews. And color teams are the bane of my existence. It's challenging for every organization and every proposal. And sometimes it often feels like we're just kind of going through the motions, checking the boxes, rather than just really genuinely trying to improve our proposals. So, what's your take on I guess, the state or the color team conundrum, I guess, that we're calling
Mm.
it in this day and age? And like, so what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I remember when you and I first kind of had our initial collaboration session, and I was like, something I've been thinking about for a long time is, like death to the debrief, right? If I sit in one more debrief that really yields inactionable things, or we're just passing a microphone around and no one has anything of value to say that anyone can really go and do anything with, that's been something on my mind for a long time. And then, but it's not just that, right? There are things that precede it that get you to that point, right? So what missteps are we taking in this process? And are we essentially just doing process for the sake of process? And we all follow the Shipley Bible, and we do our pink, red, gold religiously, hopefully, or some form and fashion of a first draft, second draft, third draft, with the goal of having incremental improvements through each milestone. Why is that not happening? And why has this become painful and therefore also negatively affecting the quality and outcome of our proposals and potentially our win probabilities? Yeah, it's been on my mind for quite some time. And there's some key things that I have identified, because it's not something that I've just sat and complained about. I have been on a mission to figure out what can be done to fix this. And they sound like, you and I are going to talk about all these things, and they sound like easy fixes, but there's a commitment, there's a price tag that comes with the things that we're going to suggest today. And some of them are more costly than others from a time and resource perspective. However, if you all are feeling the same way that we are, where you're like, oh my gosh, if I sit in one more meaningless debrief, or if our color teams are not yielding the results that we want, what is the definition what is the definition of insanity, right? Really do the same thing over and over, and we scratch our head why it's not changing. So maybe it is time to implement some changes, and maybe it is time to ask different things of different people throughout the proposal life cycle to yield better results.
Yeah. So I guess let's all just really kind of be clear, because I like to use humor in a lot of what I do. And so when we came up with the title for this episode, eh, you know, death to the color teams. We're not, it's a little trite. I get it. So, but
Yeah.
we're in no way, for those of you who are first time listeners and are experiencing the beauty of Rebecca and Todd live and in person here, is that we say everything with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but there's a lot of truth behind some of what we're saying here. Is that we're not saying throw away the Shipley approach, right? The Shipley
Right.
methodology. So I don't need,
We're
message.
gonna get hate mail. We're gonna get all the
I
hate
don't
mail
need
after this.
I don't need hate mail. I don't need anyone from Shipley, coming to me and be like, I can't believe, but I think that they of all people too, and others who have been veterans in this industry like we are, know you can't keep doing it the same way. And I want to make sure that the new generation, the emerging leaders, those that are coming up behind us, those that are looking to us as models and examples of, how to do things the right way, is that I want to make sure that they understand, and this is always how I do color teams, is to really clearly explain, why do we do this, right? Why are we doing a color team review? What is the outcome that we want from the color team review? And there's no one standard. I think that's the fallacy of trying to follow the Shipley approach. There's no one standard, there's no one consistent approach. It's whatever works for your organization. And sometimes it depends on the size of your organization. A lot of times it depends on the complexity of the opportunity. You're not going to run a full on black hat, blue team, pink. If you want to go all colors of the rainbow on a task order response,
Right.
for a BPA or an IDIQ, it's just not reasonable. It is not meant to be used that way, too. So, yeah, I just want to kind of put out that disclaimer right now before
It's good
we
that you
go
did
too.
that. It'll save us some heartache there. Yeah, absolutely. Just to echo that, like we are firm believers that that there needs to be some process in whatever you're doing. Maybe it just needs to be redefined, right?